They send our sons to war, a cruel charade, a racket built on blood, where fortunes are made. They lie about the reasons, spin tales so tall, while heroes die for profit and empires fall. Politics a game, a circus of clowns, puppets on strings. They parade through our towns. They distract and divide us with hate as their tool, pitting brother against brother in a world they misrule. When the powers that be warn you not to go beyond the pale, then that's a sure sign there's more to the tale. Their anti-human agenda, it's plain as the day. They view us as bugs in their cold, heartless play. Eat insects, they sneer, while they feast on the land. Depopulation's their goal, with a tightening hand. Civil rights torn to shreds in the name of their peace. A police state rises where freedom's all ceased. Gaslight us with propaganda, their lies never end, twisting truth in their grip till our minds start to bend. When the powers that be warn you not to go beyond the pale, then that's a sure sign there's more to the tale. Order out of chaos, their sinister creed. They spark the flames, then offer what we need. Economic stagnation, they choke out our dreams, while divide and conquer rips us at the seams. They fan every fracture, they stoke every fight, left against right, till we're blind to the light. Yet beyond their pale lies the truth they conceal. A world where we're free, where our hearts can still heal. When the powers that be warn you not to go beyond the veil, then bold, and that's a sure sign there's more to the tale. So step past their warnings, their fences, their lies. See the world they've been hiding with wide open eyes. Beyond the pale, where their power grows frail, we'll reclaim our future and truth will prevail.
Welcome, everybody, to Saturday, April 11th, 2026. And this is Beyond the Pale. I am your host, RB Ham, and I'm very excited to welcome E. Michael Jones of culturewars.com and Salim Mansur, my friend, Professor Emeritus of Western University, a very well renowned scholar and historian and a theologian in his own right. But E. Michael Jones is most famous for his Catholic theology and what's going on right now. And I just got through finished reading, and I'm going to share the screen, and I want Mr. Jones to talk about this. And I know Salim has his thoughts about this too. Hold on a sec here. Presentation. Boom. It's called Mene Mene Tekel Up Arson. Is that how it's pronounced, Mr. Jones?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay.
I don't speak Aramaic myself, but sounds okay to me.
So it's basically as Donald Trump Belshazzar, and you get into what's been going on Good Friday. Catholics celebrate the day on which the Jews killed Christ. It seems like an odd thing to celebrate, but the Serbs celebrate the Battle of Kosovo Pole, and Texans celebrate their defeat at the Alamo. So I suppose it's understandable the Christians would celebrate the most catastrophic defeat in the history of the human race. Let's meditate for a moment on it, what it must have been like on the Friday evening after Christ's body was taken down from the cross. Think of how devastated the apostles must have felt, gathered in the upper room full of fear that what happened to Christ would soon happen to them. Facing a cruel death of the sort that Christ suffered was bad enough, but now they knew that they would be called to die in what everyone recognized as a lost cause. They would be hunted down to die, knowing that all of that talk about the love of God and the universal brotherhood of man, the kingdom of heaven and the life to come, and the claim that the tyrant's yoke had been broken, it was all nothing but an illusion, a pipe dream, ein Schnappenstied. It was all opium. Karl Marx would eventually be proven right when he claimed centuries later that religion was the opiate of the masses. The only thing that mattered in this world was brute power. Pontius Pilate finally got the answer to his question when he asked Jesus what is truth. Truth is the opinion of the powerful. Bibi Netanyahu would also be proven right. Genghis Khan was more powerful than Jesus Christ. Might makes right. End of story. I'm just going to stop sharing that now. That's the introduction to the essay. I think you should go read it. You can go to the UNZ review, unz.com, unz.com, and read the whole thing. It's really impressive. Later on, he starts talking about what it means to when you say the Jews as compared to what our modern interpretation of it is. So can you get into that, Mr. Jones? What do we mean by the Jews, and what do we mean by when we start banning the idea that we're not allowed to contemplate that the Jews killed Christ, and it becomes hate speech to do so? We basically have to throw out certain parts of the New Testament, don't we?
Yes. This meditation began with me listening to a podcast with Professor Mearsheimer, the man who wrote the book on the Israel lobby, and he said, as soon as it becomes apparent that the Iran war is not going to be won, that America is going to lose this, there's going to be a wave of anger that will sweep through America. And he said, it's important at this point to remind ourselves not to hold the Jews responsible. The Jews are not responsible for this, and it would be a bad thing to say that they were, because I know Jews who oppose the war, and on the other hand, lots of these people, lots of the supporters of the war are Christian Zionists who are not Jews at all. They're just Christians. And it completely short-circuited what I think is the necessary reaction based on a category mistake. I think English speakers have a congenital disposition toward nominalism. We're all heirs as English speakers of William of Ockham, the man who thought all categories were categories of the mind and couldn't really come up with a way to form the proper categories. I am saying the proper category here is the Jews. The Jews got us into this war. This war does not benefit the people of the United States of America. It benefits the Jews. Now, what do I mean by the Jews? It doesn't mean all Jews. The Jews is a term that we got. It's a category of reality that we got. St. John uses it in his gospel. He says, hoi judaioi. That's not a category of his mind. That's not a fantasy of his mind. That refers to a group of people which the Catholic Church in Nostra Aetate has referred to when it says the Jewish leaders and their followers pressed for the death of Christ. If you take the Jewish leaders and their followers together, that group is known as the Jews. Back then, the organization that represented the interest, the leadership interest of those Jews was called the Sanhedrin. We still have a group of people who are in charge of the Jewish leaders. You ask Grok, who are they? Major Jewish organizations. And then Grok will list them, ADL, IPAC. Now, let's stop at IPAC. John Mearsheimer wrote the book on the Israel lobby. He wrote the definitive book on the Israel lobby. It came out about 20 years ago. Is he saying now that we cannot hold IPAC responsible for this debacle, for this waste of American resources? Can we not hold them responsible? Can we not hold, and we'll go down the list, the ADL, the AJC, the American Jewish Committee, all of these people constitute the modern day Sanhedrin, and we have to hold these people responsible because they are the ones who got us into this mess, and it's not anti-Semitic to say these are the people that caused it. We have to do this. Now, the Iranians have made it clear they are not going to go back to the status quo ante, where Israel, anytime they like, they can assassinate whatever Iranian leader they want to, where they can bomb people, engage in this covert warfare with impunity, that they can destroy Gaza with impunity, that they can go into Lebanon and destroy apartment buildings in Beirut with impunity. That is the status quo ante. And they are saying, we are not going back to that. The Iranians are not going back to that. And I think we have to say the same thing. We are not going to go back to the status quo ante. We are going to hold these people responsible because that's the only way we can save our country.
What do you think, Salim?
Yeah, I completely agree with Michael. I come to the same conclusion as Michael, but I come at from the Quranic point of view, in the sense that the Quran refers to the people, Jews as people of the book, Ahl al-Kitab, and then the Quran refers to those among the people of the book who waged a war against the Prophet, al-Yahud, the Jews. So the people of the book are fully acknowledged and respected. In fact, there is a whole chapter in the Quran called the children of Bani Israel, which is the Jews, that is the people of the book. And it tells their story. But then there is that segment among the people of the book who have been and continue to be what the Bible describes as people with stiff neck, people who have been killing the prophets, people who have, distorted the message, and so on and so forth, whose criminality has been one ongoing part of their history from Mount Sinai. I mean, after all, Moses came down from Mount Sinai after receiving the tablet, and he found the people of the book, according to the Quran's reference, have made up a golden calf and was worshiping it. That means that segment of the Jews who engage in such behavior after having been rescued and saved, and then what did Moses do? He punished them. He punished them severely, pick up the numbers from the Exodus, 3,000 of them were decapitated by the order of Moses, So this is in their scripture. So yes, the Jews are there. The Jews have engaged in criminality, and they're continuing to do it, as Michael just, pointed out. I mean, here it is, the American delegation with the vice president and the two envoys are meeting with the Iranian delegation in Islamabad, and the story is out that, Trump had to put down his foot, so to speak, on Netanyahu, because they were planning to assassinate the foreign minister Arakchi and the speaker of the assembly. The name escapes me right now, but there it is: assassination, murder. I mean, the murder and the assassination, which stands out and marks the history of the world, before Christ and AD, Anno Domini, with the execution of Jesus. So, yeah, absolutely. The fact of the matter is that they threaten anyone who's going to speak about and define them and describe them as a category among that larger group of people as anti-Semite and going to go after them is a telling fact of where we have arrived.
Well, I'd like to say that we're so conditioned, as the modern people, the citizens of Canada, the citizens of the United States, we're very conditioned to be very, very um, wary about when people say the Jews did this, the Jews did that, because of the memories of the Holocaust, the way it's been weaponized. And I know of some people, like on the Jimmy Dore show, Kurt Metzger, who's one of the frequent guests, says he doesn't like using that term because it's easy to be used against you, and you can be shut down because of that. And he likes to separate and say they're the Zionists, or they're not real Jews, because look what happened before 1948, before Israel was created. Jews, Christians, and Muslims lived in pretty much harmony under the Ottoman Empire. I mean, Jews, Christians, and Muslims lived together in the Holy Land for centuries. I mean, we just found out because Israel bombed a Jewish synagogue in Iran. A lot of people didn't realize that the largest Jewish community outside of Israel is in Iran, and there used to be a huge one in Baghdad in Iraq too, before the Mossad went in there and bombed the synagogues and in a false flag to drive all the Jews back into Israel. And that repeated in Egypt and in Morocco and Northern Europe. There were a lot of Sephardic Jews in Northern Africa that lived in peace with their neighbors and stuff. So that's where I have a hard problem dealing with saying a blanket statement saying the Jews are responsible for this, because there's a lot of Jewish people in the United States, like the Jewish Voices for Peace, Medea Benjamin, there's Max Blumenthal, there's Glenn Greenwald, there's Katie Halper, there's Norman Finkelstein, there's Israelis themselves like Gideon Levy and Elon Poppy, who are against what their government's doing. So that's what I just want to raise that objection. What do you say to that, Mr. Jones?
I think this is. I was faced with this objection in 2004. In 2004, I suddenly realized we're being dragged into a war in Iraq that the United States will not benefit from. And I thought, well, who's responsible for this? And then it seemed like the Jews, but I was looking at it from a political perspective. Like, is it liberal or is it conservative? Well, Irving Kristol was a Trotskyite when he was a young man in the 1930s, and then he became the founder of neoconservatism. Well, aren't they opposites? Isn't Trotsky and conservatism, isn't that the opposite? And so I realized at this point, you can't use political labels here. And so what I'm saying is, you have, where did it begin? I'm saying it began at the foot of the cross with Jesus Christ when the Jews decided to kill him. Jesus Christ is the Logos incarnate. Logos is God. That's the third sentence of St. John's Gospel. When you kill, the Logos is the order of the universe. It's rationality. If you attempt to kill that, if you're trying to overthrow the order of the universe, you're known as a revolutionary. And they chose a revolutionary in the place of Christ. So I'm saying I had to disconnect the Jewish question from the racial question. It's not a racial issue. At the time of Jesus Christ, the two opponents here both had exactly the same DNA. The difference was, did they accept Jesus Christ as the Messiah or did they kill him? That was the difference, and that has gone on to this day. So if you go back, let's say to the beginning, the time of the beginning of the state of Israel, let's say the period right after World War II, if you go back a little bit farther than that, go back to the time when the Jews were in the Pale of the Settlement. There were two main ideologies that were competing for Jewish attention at that point. There was Jewish internationalism, which was Bolshevism or communism, and there's Jewish nationalism, which was Zionism. And the dominant ideology among Jews was Bolshevism. All the way from the beginning of the 20th century, the revolutions, go back before terrorist groups, Jewish terrorist groups like Narodnaya Volia in the Pale of the Settlement. This was the dominant ideology. Most Jews were communists at that point. Only a few were Zionists. Herzl was there around the beginning of the 20th century, but it was a small group of people. That changed in 1967 with the Arab-Israeli War. At that point, a lot of Jews disconnected from the left and went over to the right, left internationalism, nationalism. We have to keep all of these categories in mind because otherwise we're going to make category mistakes. And we're not going to be able to identify the people who are responsible for what's going on. So I'm saying the proper category is the Jews. That does not mean all Jews. It means Jewish leaders and their followers. Whether it's the Sanhedrin or whether it's IPAC or ADL, it's the same type of organization. And I'm saying we have to hold these groups responsible for what they did, because if we don't, they're going to destroy our country. Now, what I'm saying here is the main enabling device for Jewish power is usury. And what you had over the course of the 20th, begin 1973, when wages stopped going up and the credit card was introduced. From that period to the present, trillions of dollars in wealth have been transferred out of the pockets of the working class into the pockets of the 1%. And I'm saying there is precedent in Catholic teaching to simply appropriate the ill-gotten gains of the usurers. In the article, I mentioned the Duchess of Brabant in the 13th century wrote to St. Thomas Aquinas and said, the economy's tied up in knots. Everybody's spending their money on interest payments. And nobody can sell anything anymore. What should I do? And Aquinas said very clearly, confiscate the money of the Jews. Confiscate the Jewish ill-gotten gains from usury. They have no right to possess this. And I'm saying we have a beginning of this with Zoran Mamdani, the Muslim mayor of New York, who's got a budget shortfall. And so he's proposed something called a wealth tax, but it's an income tax. We don't want an income tax. We want a wealth tax. So let's go, Paul Singer. Show us your bank account. I want 10% of your wealth. I want 10% of your net worth. I don't care how much you earn a year. Warren Buffett's secretary pays more income tax than Warren Buffett because he doesn't get his money through wages. I'm saying we need to identify the enemy. We need to have a united front, and I'm talking specifically with the Muslims who understand the dangers of riba, of usury, and we need to hold these people accountable. That is the fundamental political challenge that we face right now.
And Salim, I've looked into that and this idea of usury. And so basically, these are people who make wealth off their own money by investing their own money back into themselves. Basically, they create categories through the taxation system where they can skirt the taxes and they can just keep making money over and over again. It's not money they're earning, because usury isn't earning money. You're penalizing some poor guy on the street who has to borrow money just to make ends meet because of inflation and all these pressures on the working man. And so they're just constantly like a hamster on a wheel, running and running and running. And meanwhile, they're the people that cage them in these hamster cages and give them the water and change the straw are the ones that are benefiting from usury. And in your historical look at it, is there any precedents where we could actually turn the tables on these people that make money off of usury?
Well, in the classical times, that is before Islamdom or the Muslim world fell into the hands of the European imperial colonial powers and the neocolonialism of America. When the Muslim world was free and sovereign in that sense, that they were not colonized and they were not under the heels of the British, the French, the Portuguese, the Spanish, and so on and so forth, the economy worked on the very clear principle that usury is completely prohibited, and people who engage in usury will be taxed and taken away. I mean, they'll have to, part with their earnings that is usurious, and that was clearly formulated and practiced. But then we come to the modern economy, we come to the modern world, we come to the colonial imperial period right across the Muslim world, in Africa, in the Middle East, in North Africa, in India, and so on and so forth. And we are, that is, the Muslim world, like the Chinese and everyone else, is ensnared into the economy which is usurious, which practice usury. Yes, the Catholic Church prohibits it, but Islam also prohibits it. The Quran completely prohibits it. And within the context of the Sharia, there was a formula constructed to see to it that this practice will not occur and take place. So yes, I mean, so long we are embedded in this capitalist system, the usurious capitalist system, we are all tied up into it. So who is going to cut the Gordian knot, and how it will be cut? That's the challenge that we are faced with.
What do you think?
I think that God has an answer to that question, and I think it's Persia. I think that it's Iran.
Yes.
I think Iran has played a role in salvation history before. Iran set the... So let's go back to the Hebrew people. They are incorrigible. You mentioned already, their feet were still wet from crossing the Red Sea, and they're worshiping a golden calf. And Moses has to punish them. And then Moses dies, and they get to the point where they don't pay any attention to the prophets. They kill the prophet. Jeremiah is trying to argue with them that you're wicked people. They ignore it. And finally, God says, okay, you're not going to listen to the prophet. You're going to listen to Nebuchadnezzar now. And so he conquers them, sends them off into the Babylonian captivity. God had a specific term in mind. It was 70 years. You were going to be punished for 70 years. And then when the 70 years is up, he sends Cyrus, the king of Persia, to basically depose Belshazzar. Belshazzar gets the message. It's written on the wall. You have been weighed, you have been found wanting, and your kingdom will be divided by the Persians. And that's what happened to him. God sent Cyrus, sent the punishment, and then he sent them the release from the punishment, and the Persians played a role in that. When the Roman Empire was led by Julian the Apostate, who was going to destroy Christianity, he made an alliance with the Jews, and they asked him to rebuild the temple, and that blew up, and he starts marching toward Persia. It was Shapur II, the Persian emperor, again, who stopped this wicked emperor. You see, there's an exact analogy here with Donald Trump. He's moving in, he's going to attack Persia, and Persia, I am saying that Persia is fulfilling a traditional role that it has played throughout salvation history. Persia, I wrote another article. I said, we know that God wants peace, but does he want a ceasefire? Does he want the Jews to call for a ceasefire so they can rearm and then kill people when their armaments are built up again? Or does God want a permanent solution? Is God using the Persians, the Iranians right now, to bring about a permanent solution here the hard way, by doing to Tel Aviv what Netanyahu did to Gaza?
What do you think, Salim? Is that possible? The scourge of God are the Persians, and history may not repeat, but it rhymes. Do you see that happening again? I'm asking you, Salim.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, Michael is viewing this and offering to all of us the perspective based upon a sense of providence is at play. That might very well be that a providence is at play. He's also referred to Hegel's cunning of history. All of that might be true, and if that is what is taking place, we will know in retrospect that that's happened, uh, at least among those who believe. Uh, but the vast segment of the population in the world, and particularly in North America, because North America is involved and is deeply embedded in what the Jews have been doing over the last 80 years, are Christians. And they have to also answer then, why are they the handmaiden of the Jews in this sense? Because on the flip side of the argument or the discussion is the uh, the absolute vilification, slander, slur about Muslims and Islam, about the Prophet of Islam. I mean, not only the Jews executed or had the Romans execute Jesus according to both the secular history and the biblical story, the New Testament story. Okay. But the Jews in the modern times, but also in the period after the coming of Islam, after the Prophet, have been similarly engaged during the life of the Prophet and after the Prophet, engaged in warfare against Muslims. And the whole construct that has been established, drawn from the Bible, the Old Testament, has been to vulgarize the seed of Abraham, that is, the seed of Abraham through Hagar, that is Ishmael. And in that sense, both the Christians and the Jews have been involved in that vilification and vulgarization. In fact, one can talk about this as a completely bigoted and racist sense, that Abraham's seed is not only Isaac, it is Ishmael, and he is the oldest boy. And then the defamation, and this is all in the Genesis. Chapter 16 to 21 deals with that history, but Ted Cruz won't refer to that, or Mike Huckabee won't refer to that, or anybody else won't refer to that. They read about Genesis 12 and Genesis 17 and so on and so forth. I don't have them all in my head, but they ignore the entire story about Ishmael and Hagar and Abraham going to Becca, which was the prehistoric name of Mecca, and so on and so forth. And it continues. It continues right to our time. So the vilification of Muslims and the vilification of Islam and the followers of Muhammad are the Persians. And so we have again this completely mixed up story. Yes, ancient Persia was Zoroastrian or pagan, but then what is ancient Persia changes in its entirety in the 7th century. Salman the Farsi was the first Persian who came and followed Muhammad, became part of his, what is called the house of the Prophet, Ahl al-Bayt. The Prophet's grandson, Hussein, the martyr, who died in Karbala, who was killed in Karbala by the Arab, in the contest for authenticity and who should be the leader, was married to the daughter of the last Persian emperor, Yazdijad III. So the connections are very deep, and it is in terms of the Persians of today, the Iranians of today, they are Muslims. And then you have, John Hagee and the whole lot of them standing up and denouncing the Muslim, vilifying the prophet. And how are the Muslim going to take that,
Okay, one of the most significant events that took place over this Easter, we're talking about 2 weeks, is the breakup of the MAGA coalition. So before it was threatened because there was the Israel First and the America First section, but now I think there's a religious split here, and it's between the Catholics and the Christian Zionists. So that it begins with Franklin Graham giving an outrageously anti-Muslim speech, basically saying that the book of Esther, 72,000 Persians were killed. And so therefore, Donald, go and kill another 72,000 in Iran right now. An outrageous call to an unjust war.
Can we take the time to listen to this? I have it all queued up.
Go ahead.
Let us pray. Father, you tell us in the book of Esther that the Persians, the Iranians, were wanting to kill every Jew, woman, child, and do it all in one day. But you raised up Esther to save the Jewish people. Father, we thank you. Today, the Iranians, the wicked regime of this government, wants to kill every Jew and destroy them with an atomic fire. But you have raised up President Trump. You've raised him up for such a time as this. And Father, we pray that you'll give him victory. Father, we pray for our military that you'd watch over, protect them. Father, we pray for the people of Iran who want freedom to be set free from these Islamic lunatics. Father, we thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, who came to this earth to take our sins.
Set free by killing them all, apparently.
That he died and shed his blood on a cross for our sins, that he was buried. He took our sins to the grave, but you raised him to life. And Father, we thank you and we praise you and we give you the glory. Father, protect President Trump.
All right. This is outrageous. Look, I'm a Catholic. Don't impose your crazy lunatic ideology on me. Don't drag me into this thing. And what I'm saying here is that the split has already taken place. So Trump is ready to go up the escalation ladder. He's got the bombers heading toward Iran. They're supposed to arrive there at 8 o'clock. And at 7 o'clock, he calls a peace deal. There's a deal. It was the Catholics who saved that deal. It was J.D. Vance. So what you have is a split now between the Catholics and the Christian Zionists. And I'm saying the Pope was involved in this thing. He condemned this abuse of Scripture to call for the murder of innocent people. Words fail me here. That someone like this thing could call this type of thing and then pray to the same God that I pray to, invoking his name. This is outrageous.
I found this clip of Pope Leo talking in English. Of course, there was this back and forth. Pope Leo came out and said, you can't pray to the God of war and all that stuff because you have blood on your hands. And of course, there was a backlash. And in the Pentagon, they wouldn't let the people in the Pentagon observe Good Friday. And they even sent, I've got that queued up too, or they even sent some goon to the Pope to try to strong arm him, and he invoked the Avignon doctrine. But first of all, before I play that, I want to play this. This is Pope Leo speaking in English about this whole controversy.
In English, I would simply say, once again, what I said in the Urbi et Orbi message on Sunday, asking all people of goodwill to search always for peace and not violence, to reject war, especially a war which many people have said is an unjust war, which is continuing to escalate and which is not resolving anything. In fact, we have a worldwide economic crisis, energy crisis, situation in the Middle East of great instability, which is only provoking more hatred throughout the world. So come back to the table. Let's talk. Let's look for solutions in a peaceful way. And let's remember, especially the innocent, children, the elderly, sick, so many people who have already become or will become victims of this continued warfare. To remind all that attacks on civilian infrastructure is against international law, but that it is also a sign of the hatred, the division, the destruction that the human being is capable of. And we all want to work for peace. People want peace. I would invite the citizens of all the countries involved to contact the authorities, political leaders, congressmen, to ask them, tell them to work for peace and to reject war always.
That's a wonderful thing to hear, isn't it?
Or suppose you put this up for a vote. Let's put it up to the world. Which path do you choose? Do you want to follow Franklin Graham or do you want to follow the Pope? How many people in the world do you think are going to vote for Franklin Graham? I don't even think the people in the room would vote for Franklin Graham. This is crazy. And so what we need to do is to, again, this is God's hand. There is a conflict. I said this before. The Protestants are disappearing. It means that there's a conflict between Catholics and Jews or Judaizers like the Christian Zionists over whether there is an international law or a universal moral law that everyone must follow. So Joe Kent, a member of the Trump administration, resigned. He's a Catholic, and he said for moral reasons he had to resign. This is the type of split that is taking place right now, and I think that the Catholics have the upper hand now in the administration.
I think so too, and I just wanted to quickly show people this. So people don't I don't know if everybody's aware of this, but Trump goon gives Vatican bitter lecture amid growing rift. The Pope's ambassador to the U.S. was given a jaw-dropping telling to by a minor Trump functionary. Let's read the story. A top Vatican diplomat was summoned to the Pentagon for a bitter lecture demanding that the Pope get behind Donald Trump, it has emerged. Vatican officials briefed on the meeting told the Free Press that one of the Pentagon's most senior officials summoned Cardinal Christophe Pierre to meet in January, then told him that the United States has the military power to do whatever it wants, and that Pope Leo, the first American-born pontiff, better take its side. The site writes that as tensions escalated, one U.S. official went so far as to invoke the Avignon papacy, the period in the 1300s when the French crown leveraged its military power to dominate the papal authority. Pierre was reportedly summoned to the meeting by Undersecretary of Defense for Policy Elbridge Colby, a Catholic who served in the first Trump administration and was nominated by Trump for his current role. Colby is a close ally of Catholic convert J.D. Vance. Such a meeting between Pentagon officials and the Vatican is believed to be unprecedented. The Free Press writes that Pentagon brass picked apart the pontiff's January speech, referring to his inaugural State of the World address. They reportedly took issue with the passage in which Leo challenged Trump's so-called Donroe doctrine, saying a diplomacy that promotes dialogue and seeks consensus among all parties is being replaced by a diplomacy based on force by either individuals or groups of allies. The bombshell revelation comes as Leo has publicly criticized Trump and his acolytes, first for their deadly, inhumane migrant crackdown, and most recently for the president's threat on Tuesday morning to annihilate all of Iran. Leo's relationship with the Trump administration soured quickly after he was elected on May 8th, writes the Rome-based journalist Matthias Ferraresi. The White House invited Leo to return home and celebrate America's 250th birthday at the White House this summer, but he declined. So, yeah, things aren't looking too good there. What do you think, Salim? I mean, they summoned the Pope's ambassador to the Pentagon and basically gave him, like, either get behind us or else. What's going on in the world?
Well, it is let's step back. I mean, the last 2.5 years, there's a genocide going on, and Christendom, in the classic sense, the global North, has completely ignored that. That is the governments and heads of state, and has not followed their own convention on whether it is the genocide, whether it's the international law. In fact, all of that the post 1945 order, which the whole world signed on to, has been completely trashed and dismantled in favor of the Jews. And they have not been held accountable. When Michael talks about the Israel and the Jews acting with impunity, well, yes, of course, because they have the biggest powers in the world behind them. So it is not simply Catholic or Protestant; it is back again the very people, which make up Christendom, has been taken over by the people who were involved on that Passover weekend 2,000 years ago. And we don't face up to that, and nobody's standing up and talking about that. The people who are standing up and talking about that are people who are vilified over and over and over again. If you're talking about the Abrahamic faith tradition, we're not talking about the Chinese, we're not talking about the Hindus, we're not talking about what remains of the Zoroastrian, the Parsi, who are predominantly present in India, my native land. We are talking about the Muslim world. We're talking about Arabs. We're talking about Persians. We're talking about, Central Asian and anything. I mean, this has been going on for practically the entirety of the 20th century. It is not something new. And I would go back. It goes back right to the Crusade and before the Crusade. The vilification, the very people who puts Jesus in boiling in excrement and his mother a harlot, are the same people who have been vilifying and abusing Prophet Muhammad, threatening him now in the modern times with all the power that they possess because of the Anglo-American imperial powers. So when are we going to take the beam out of our eyes? After all, Jesus said, take the beam out of your eyes before you go on picking on whether it's Protestant, whether it is Catholic or whoever. Is there a universal principle or not? Muslims revere Jesus. Muslims revere Mary. Every family, a Muslim family, will have a woman in that family named Mary, Maryam. My grandmother was Maryam. My older sister-in-law is Maryam. All in the honor of Mary. And same with Jesus. Whatever is the theological difference between Muslims and Christians on the question of Jesus, the Quran is very explicit. Do not get into any argument of which you don't know anything about. On the day of judgment, it will be clarified. It is not from the Muslim point of side that the argument is to get into, a theological debate of finite minds of gnats trying to understand infinity. The Quran refers to Jesus as Ruh Allah, that is the breath of God, the Spirit of God. But who are the people who have abused and continues to abuse and have not been held responsible? So yes, the Persians may be the scourge of God by going back to the biblical history, that is the Old Testament history. But how much of that Old Testament history is not fabrication, redaction, interpolation to serve this so-called chosen people?
Well, this is one that I'd like to play for the people. This is from watch Israeli soldiers beating and arresting Christians who were celebrating Orthodox Easter in Jerusalem. This is just from yesterday. Okay, that's what's going on in the Holy Land. I like Michael. I want you to expand on that. What's going on in the Holy Land? What's going on in the West Bank right now? They're not like people don't realize that there's a vibrant Christian communities that are in the West Bank that are being assaulted right now by illegal settlements, and they're expanding the illegal settlements. And they've said so. Smotrich, Ben-Gvir, PPLA have said that they want to expunge not just the Palestinian Muslims. They want to expunge everybody and make everything in Greater Israel Jewish only. And they're advocating it right in front of everybody's faces. And you still have these Christian Zionists that are supporting this. I can't understand what's going on. Well, how do they still support this?
They're blinded by an ideology. They're suborned by money and bribery, all of the usual tricks. A lot of them are being blackmailed. But the tactics are always the same. So just recently, Cardinal Pizzaballa tried to go to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre to celebrate the Good Friday service, and he was immediately stopped by Israeli police. This is the first time in history this has happened. And so then there's an international outcry, and then Netanyahu comes in and says, oh, it's all a big mistake. I demand that they make sure you allow them in. This is classic good cop, bad cop. You know, the local guy is the bad cop. The big guy at the top comes, oh, it's all a big mistake. And then when you're interrogated, then you tell them all your secrets. This is what I mean by the status quo ante. This is exactly what you can expect. There's nothing more you can expect from these people. I'm saying we should not go back to a status quo ante that is constantly engaging in this type of low-level aggression against both Arab Muslims and Christians. It's a political alliance. There's no point in talking, in a sense, about the past, about past grievance. Whenever I talk to Catholics about Muslims, they invariably bring up the Turks, you know, and the siege of Vienna and how many Christians died there and so on. I agree. That was 1685. This is a different situation. The Turks were always the scourge of God. They were the punishment whenever Christians had disunity. The Turks would march up the Danube and they'd conquer one city after another, and they came to Vienna. That if they had conquered Vienna, all of Europe would be Muslim right now. And so by the grace of God, it didn't happen. But okay, we have grievances on both sides. There's no point in dwelling on this because this is a new situation. We have a common enemy. The Jews are the people that killed Christ. We have a common enemy. They are enemies of the entire human race. And I am just looking for some type of, waiting for some type of politician who can mobilize some force against them. But even if some politician can't, I think God is going to use the Iranians to destroy Israel. I think it's inevitable. And the man who's responsible for that is Bibi Netanyahu. He's the worst thing that ever happened to the Jews. Every time he makes this great triumph by getting the Americans to do something or other, Israel suffers. Tel Aviv is bombarded with more missiles, and I can't stop it. This is in God's hand. And I'm thinking we should be open to the possibility that maybe God is trying to tell the Jews something. And if they're not going to listen and repent and come back to him, then he's going to do it the hard way. But God will not be mocked. Anyway, yeah. I got to get off. Thank you for having me on. Thanks for a great discussion.
Thank you. And remember to go see, you can find Michael Jones at culturewars.com and read his essays and support him there. Thank you so much, Mr. Jones. Talk to you later.
Thank you. Peace.
Peace out. Bye. Well, it was great to have him here and his point of view with the scourge of God and all that is very interesting. And it just might very well be. And you don't even have to look at it through a totally religious vent. My friend Russell Dobular from Do Dissidents, he's a Jewish person who's not, who was one of those Jewish people that when they tried to send him to Hebrew school and they tried to teach him into following this extremist Zionist way of thinking, he rejected it. And he's saying that even from a secular point of view, the Jewish state right now is falling in on itself through its own hubris and through its own overreach. Because the more they try to, implement this greater Israel plan, and the more impunity they show, and the more bombs the more innocent civilians they kill in Lebanon and Syria and Iran, and the more they crack down on the Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank, and the more concentration camps they have, and the more laws they pass to brutalize and persecute all the people that are under their control, the more the whole world is rising up against them. Now we see what the Chinese people are. The Chinese minister came out and said what Israel's doing is tantamount to the same thing the Nazis did. They're actually talking openly about this at the UN. I think everything is falling apart on them, and I want to show this and then have you comment on this. I'm going to share the screen. Even Sky News, which has always been a pro-Israel outlet, has come out. And a Sky News reporter just demolished the Israeli ambassador's talking points, every excuse, every justification, every lie, taken apart piece by piece. The ambassador squirmed, deflected, couldn't answer, because the truth is undeniable. Israel is bombing innocent people on purpose, and no amount of Hasbro can spin that away. And I'm going to go back to the start. Here we go. Let's listen.
But Ambassador, I know, but Ambassador Danon, you cannot. No, you speak about everything else, but you actually miss the main point. The main point that Hezbollah.
No, but I'm asking about Israel's actions. I'm asking about Israel's actions because the buildings that you've struck, witnesses, emergency workers, the medics that arrived there are saying that those buildings were civilian areas.
You will going to ask everything you want, but I will bring you back to the root cause of the problem and the conflict. For decades, we are fighting Hezbollah. For decades, Hezbollah is in control of Lebanon. So you cannot speak about the suffering in Lebanon without mentioning what is the cause for that. They started this cycle of violence again 40 days ago. So now to come to Israel...
But Ambassador, you have an obligation under international law, under humanitarian law, to ensure that you do not target densely populated areas. And these areas, the buildings that you struck, were civilian areas that had no affiliation with Hezbollah, that weren't military installations.
No, that's
and
not
that's
correct.
Why we are seeing a high number of civilians, including women and children, killed. And I mean, there are the profiles of these people. I'm here in Beirut, and I've been speaking to officials. I've been speaking to families and those who have been impacted, and they were civilians.
Not even Sky News is buying their crap anymore.
Well, Harvey, the majority of the people around the world, their representative is in the United Nations. And you have seen time and time and time again that the resolutions on genocide going on in Gaza, whether at the General Assembly or at the Security Council, only draws America and its few satellites in the South Pacific uh, and Israel. At best 12 votes at the UN, and then at the Security Council, the veto by United States. So um, there is no support for Israel. There is no support for United States. Ongoing, the question comes down to what about the rest of the Christendom? It is not the Chinese, it's not the Malaysians, it is not the Vietnamese, it's not the Indonesians, and so on and so forth. It comes down to, again, what about the G7 countries? What about Canada? I mean, the entire post 1945 identity of Canada has been one of being a founding member of the United Nations and a defender of the United Nations system of international law. The Nobel Prize for Lester Pearson, the participation of every government at the highest level on issues relating to, since we're talking about the Middle East, on the issues relating to the Middle East, and then comes the genocide, and Canada is missing, So we have to come back to the question. It is not about whether, I mean, it's a nice metaphor that Michael is using, that the Persians are the scourge of God, going back to Nebuchadnezzar. But that's exactly the way the Protestants behave, reading up Old Testament and making up their history to find the prophecy being fulfilled. There's no such thing in the Quran. There is a question in the Quran. It's very simple, um, that a believer. Who is a believer? It addresses the believer. A believer is one who submits to one God, who then recognizes that there will be a day of reckoning, the day of judgment, where he will be held accountable, and who, during his lifetime, follow the right path, that is, do good. And God has made covenant with all people. There are no privileged people in their language. But God doesn't speak with a forked tongue. What is good is universal. That is the categorical imperative that is completely missing in Talmudism. The universality of the message that was given to Moses was corrupted by the Talmudists.
Yeah, I'm reflecting on the fact that they have this idea of a day of atonement. So once a year they atone for all the sins they commit, and then they can go back to committing those sins for another 364 days until the next day of atonement.
Oh, but RB, that day of atonement is only again for the Jews.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
So everything is thou shalt not kill. The Talmudists made it thou shalt not kill a Jew. Thou shalt not commit adultery, universal. Thou shalt not commit adultery with a Jew. And so on and so forth. Everything is reduced to a Jew. This is the
Yes.
captive mind. This is Talmudism.
And it's also they I do believe they have carve-outs that they treat the fellow Jews better or differently than they do the Goyim, and they quite openly say that in their Talmudic tablets.
Well, I mean, the whole idea of Amalek, Goyim, Gentile, is the idea that they do not possess human soul.
Right.
They are subhuman.
Yeah.
Okay? And that comes into modern time. Rabbi Abraham Cook, who is the founder of the movement, which in a sense becomes the Likudniks, talked openly about the Goyim being made to serve the interests of the Jews. Now, when Michael was talking about internationalism and nationalism, that is in the 19th century emerge among European Jews, and which would be the one that would come out on top. The internationalists had the biggest support till the Zionists got the support of the Anglo-American power, and they then came on top. But for the longest while, it was the internationalists. But what Michael Jones either missed out or could not recall or probably haven't paid attention to is the conflict between the nationalists and the internationalists, the Bolsheviks and the Zionists, was a conflict among the agnostic or atheistic Jews, not the religious Jews. The religious Jews rejected both of them.
Yeah.
Because for the religious Jews, there could only be an ingathering in Palestine when the Messiah, their Moshiach, comes. Until then, it is forbidden for any believing Jew, practicing Jew, to step into the Holy Land.
And I'm subscribed to their X account. The true Torah Jews are completely different from either the Zionists or the Bolsheviks, and they are totally anti-Zionist, and they think it's a heresy. I just wanted to share the screen.
But the point here is that once the Zionists prevail with the help of the Anglo-American, the people like Netanyahu Carter became very marginalized.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very marginal. That is, the religious Jews went over to the side of the Zionists. And that's what it is in America today. There are no voices in America today like Rabbi Elmer Berger, Lilienthal, and the whole lot of them who oppose the Zionists in the 1930s all the way into the Truman administration.
Actually, I can find there are some in that are against that, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Right now, I want to show this to the people and to you. Bound and tortured Palestinian hostage, Israel's National Security Minister Ben-Gvir. Do you see them? This is how they are now, but one thing remains to be done, and that is to execute them. This is what the US, UK, and the Europe support.
אלה כל הנוח'בות, אלה הגיבורים, על הילדים, על הנשים, על התינוקות שלנו. תראו איך הם היום. מינימום של מינימום תנאים, אבל יש עוד משהו שחייבים לעשות. עונש מוות למחבלים.
So I wanted to share that, and then I'm going to share something else here next. Where did I have that? Here, hold on a sec, guys. Okay, here we go.
You're asking me a question? Oh, okay.
No, I'm going to show you something, then we're going to talk about it. This is what Israel did to Lebanon on Wednesday, less than 24 hours after a ceasefire that included Lebanon, according to CM Shabazz, was announced despicable and criminal. And so here we go.
The Israeli military launched what it said were 100 airstrikes at multiple locations across Lebanon within the span of 10 minutes.
50 avions de chasse israéliens ont participé à cette vague de frappes.
لا مبالغة في القول ألسي أن الوضع في شوارع بيروت كارثي كي لا نقول أنه هستيري.
يا الله يا الله يا الله.
Le gouvernement libanais annonce que des centaines de personnes ont été tuées.
هيا ضربة عنا يا برح.
Mener une frappe surprise contre des centaines de terroristes du Hezbollah dans les centres de commandement à travers le Liban. Il s'agit du coup le plus dur porté au Hezbollah depuis l'opération des Beepers.
يا عطرة يا مرلياس يا أمي دخيل إيش رايك؟
لا تقطعوا البنات لك بدهم تصوير كمان بصور كمان ضربوها ونزلوها كذا غارة على مدينة سور الضربة هلا بكيفون
هيا ضربة عنا هيا برحص هون في حدا؟
هيدي الضربة القوية اللي ورا رفاعي العالم بالأراضي بعيد عني يا زلمة بعيد عني ما في 100 متر يا الله شو هذا الحي اللي جاي يا الله العالم يا الله العالم بالأرض كلياتها يا شباب يا الله
هذا البناية المهددة بصير
يا ماما مجزرة كما يصفها أبناء شمسطار 9 شهداء وفق ما أفادتنا فرق الدفاع المدني حتى هذه اللحظة. الغارة الإسرائيلية حصلت في أثناء دفن أحد أبناء هذه البلدة.
Ces frappes qui ont ciblé plusieurs bâtiments. Ces bâtiments, vous allez les voir à l'instant, qui ont été complètement détruits. Scène surréaliste, apocalyptique.
أرسلت الغارات الإسرائيلية التي طالت لبنان في غضون 10 دقائق.
هانس ضربوا الهانس يا شباب.
طلعت رفاعي هون طلعت رفاعي.
Situation extrêmement compliquée ici à Beyrouth. Vous voyez avec ce déluge de frappes qui a ciblé la capitale.
استشهد 3 من اولادك هلا هون؟
2
من اولادك هون. شو مين هن اولادك اول شيء؟
رحمة حيدر شحايب وريان حيدر شحايب عم يصلوا.
قدروا ينتشلوهم ما قدروا
فتشوا ولا ما قصروا وركضت 3 باسبور.
3 باسبور بس.
باسبور بالجاية.
افتحوا لنشوف. رحمة.
ولاد هيك.
قالوا باسبور. لحد هلا انت منك قادر تعرف شيء عن ولادك.
ضربوا هون طلت الخياط.
شباب يا الله يا الله نازلين على طلة الخياط بناية مثل ما هي.
هاي مكان الغارة طلة الخياط هلا.
لاريسا اعطيني ايدك لهون يا عمو.
ما في علقانة اجري بسام.
اعطيني ايدك لهون يا عمو هو بيشيلك من هوليكي. لاريسا
يلا طلعت بإذن الله طلعت. يا علي
يا رب
يا علي
يا الله.
بدي ما تخافي انت بنت ايوه الاتكال على الله حيوصلوا لك الشباب حيوصلوا لك ما تخافي.
So it's a hard thing to watch, but I think we have to take it all in. What happened was absolutely horrendous. A surprise attack on residential areas, and their excuse is that they were targeting Hezbollah command centers. Absolutely incredible. And I think something like this is going to turn the world against what Israel's up to. I pray to God that people finally stand up and say enough.
That's all we can do is pray over here. But this has been going on for years and years. I mean, that Israeli minister talking to the press is trying to say that they have been dealing with the Hezbollah for decades, and what is the root cause of it is a Hezbollah action against Israel. Well, I mean, the press doesn't know the history,
Tell everybody the history. Israel invaded Lebanon in 1982, and that's when Hezbollah was formed.
There was no Hezbollah.
Yeah.
And so we're always, that is the world and the poor Arabs, poor Persians, they're simply playing catch up because one set of crime, and before anybody has taken notice and tried to deal with it in whatever fashion, there is a next set of crime, and so on and so forth, playing catch up, and that's what the Israelis have been doing, and so none of their crimes have been brought to make them accountable for. None. I mean, they're the ones who killed Count Bernadotte, who came to investigate, what was happening in 1948. But they say, that was an invasion. So the Jews, they provoke and commit crimes. And when there is a response in self-defense, that then becomes aggression. And the whole cycle is repeated and repeated and repeated. And here we are, in a war that has been raging nonstop since October of 2023.
I just wanted to share this with the people. 130 years ago, Jews and Muslims exchanged gifts on Passover. Jewish and Muslim kids played together in the same courtyards. Jews, Muslims, and Christians lived and shopped together and merged their holidays together. And then Zionism destroyed it all. Let's watch.
In late Ottoman Palestine, Jews, Muslims, and Christians in place in Jerusalem. They lived on the same streets, they shopped in the same stores. Jewish and Muslim children played together in the same residential courtyards. And you have anecdotes in the literature of Jewish children and Muslim children in one courtyard ganging up against Jewish and Muslim children in another courtyard. It's important to remember that Jews fared very well under Muslim rule, especially in comparison to how they fared under Christian rule. By the 1908 Ottoman Constitutional Revolution, Ottomanism emerged as a shared ideology, a shared political identity for all of Palestine's religious communities. The Al-Wad neighborhood of Jerusalem was home, for example, to 3 churches, 3 synagogues, and 7 mosques. Jews and Palestinian Arabs lived side by side in places like Manshia and Jaffa. Christians and Muslims also celebrated Jewish holidays. You have anecdotes in the literature of Muslim and Christian children dressing up for the Jewish holiday of Purim, wearing costumes just as the Jewish children did. You have Christians and Muslims merging Orthodox Easter together with the Muslim holiday of the Nebi Musa pilgrimage. Jews also joined those festivities as well. Muslims and Christians joined Jewish celebrations at the shrine of Shimon HaTzadik in Sheikh Jarrah, where Palestinian families today are being pushed out, evicted, ethnically cleansed from their homes. In late Ottoman Palestine.
So a lot of people don't realize that history. The rich cultural history where all these faiths live together in relative peace and harmony. And people don't want to believe it. They refuse to believe it, but it's the truth.
But what's the point, RV? Because they are the ones who control the media. They are the ones who control the academia. The non-Jews in the global north, in Canada, in United States, have no knowledge of the history of anybody, neither of themselves or of the other, except what is fed to them by the Jewish-owned media and the Jewish penetrated universities and schools and colleges. This is not the problem, say, with the Chinese or with the Japanese or with the Koreans and so on and so forth, or the Russians. It is the problem very much so with the Anglo-American powers and the European powers. The golden age of the Jews in the medieval age was the golden age under the Muslim rule in Spain and in Andalusia. And when the Holocaust came, they found their shelter, refuge if they could get out from Europe, in Morocco, in Tunisia, in Libya, in Egypt, in Turkey, in the Ottoman Empire, of what remained of the Ottoman Empire. But does any of the students in North America know about that? Do the teachers know about that? Because there's only one story, one narrative. That's the narrative of the Holocaust. And anybody who was going to give a different, perspective on it will be denounced as an anti-Semite. The very people who protected the Jews during the Holocaust will be denounced as anti-Semites.
Yeah. Well, I think we're starting to see what's going on. It's transforming the world. I want to quickly mention, I won't share all this to the screen, and we'll be leaving people pretty soon here, but it's starting to happen. North Korea and South Korea are starting to get closer together. Kim Jong-un and the president of South Korea met at the DMZ, and Kim Jong-un actually crossed into the South Korean territory, shook hands with the guy. They're starting to talk about putting aside their differences. People are turning against what the United States and has become. They're turning against what their support for Israel. In China, Xi Jinping just met with the main opposition leader of the Taiwan political party there. She came over to China, over to Beijing, and they had a ceremony where they did some kind of wreath, and they're starting to talk about banding together. Things are changing really quick, real fast, and I think we're just going to watch it happen, because the American empire is imploding as we speak, and what this war against Iran, I think they went a bridge too far. All the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry, as they say, right? And so, and Donald Trump's betrayal of the MAGA movement is just plain to see now. He's lost all the best ones.
Well, on the MAGA movement, there's so many things else is happening, as you just pointed out. But on the MAGA movement, I mean, now one can, I would argue, say with complete confidence that for Donald Trump, there was no MAGA movement. It was simply a con job, I mean, there was a genuine America First movement that was there going back to Charles Lindbergh and the people during the 1930s who opposed, including people like Joseph Kennedy, who opposed America getting into the war a second time, after having said that America would not go to war in Europe again in the lifetime of the generation that had gone in 1916, 17. Well, that America First movement, that genuine America First movement was there. It was there as late as 1990s with Pat Buchanan. It is Donald Trump that usurped that movement for his own purpose and did a con job on it. So he didn't betray anything. It is we who were conned. That is the American people that were conned, who were America First. And now the mask has totally fallen.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think we should hear from this guy. I've got this, then we'll talk about the martyred Charlie Kirk. And let's hear what he had to say about Iran.
Take out the mullahs, knock them out. You got John Bolton, who's getting a little excited. Let me translate for you right now. He writes in the Wall Street Journal, and you guys know I'm pro-Israel. I don't think I need to prove that any further. I have the scars to prove that I'm pro-Israel from all the campus events. Iran's ayatollahs are weaker than ever. Let me tell you what John Bolton is really saying here. He's basically saying that we should go for the throat and we need to execute regime change. That is what John Bolton is saying in neocon speak, in so many words. But did you know that we only have a problem in Iran at the scale and the magnitude that we currently have because we involved ourselves in regime change? America has a long history of regime change with Iran. Historically, Iran was then called Persia way back in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. It was ruled by a Shah, an absolute monarch. During World War II, the British and the Soviets invaded Iran because they were worried that it would ally with Hitler. They deposed the ruling Shah, throwing the country into turmoil. The Shah's son took power, but then he was overthrown too. Iran came under the rule of a prime minister who had a lot of popular support. But to be honest, he was kind of a communist. He wanted to nationalize the oil. His name was Mossadegh. He was not a great guy. He basically tried to make himself a dictator. He tilted towards the Soviet Union, and he was hostile to American economic interests. So our leaders got in their heads that they should overthrow him. So they said, this guy is bad. How could anything get worse than Mossadegh? But he was largely secular. He was not Islamic. So we, in our American mind, said, this guy is terrible. He's a communist. Take him out. What could be worse than Mossadegh? So we did. And by the way, our government lied about it for years. The CIA and MI6 assisted the Iranian military in overthrowing Mossadegh. They lied about it, and finally declassified files showed that, no, we were involved and we got rid of the democratically elected, somewhat communistic Mossadegh, interfering with the self-determination of the Iranian people. Because we said, what could be worse than this guy? Well, we reinstalled the Shah. And look, the Shah was an autocrat. He was also super sick and very weak. He was not able to really run the country. But hey, he was anti-communist and pro-America. But he was not popular in his country. And since he was America's guy, that made America much more unpopular in Iran. And then in the 1970s, Iran had another revolution because of us. And this is when Islam surfaced. A group of radical Islamic students launched demonstrations against the regime, and eventually they overthrew the Shah. They recalled an exiled Islamic cleric, the infamous Ayatollah Khomeini, back from exile, and they made him the theocratic ruler. Because America had involved itself so aggressively in Iranian affairs before these people really hated America. And so, thanks to our intervention in that country in the 50s, we made them an enemy for decades to come. This radical regime took dozens of Americans as hostages in our embassy. They sponsored terrorism around the world, and they called us the Great Satan. The moral here is that we should not invade Iran, and we should not support regime change. Sometimes you get something way worse. Like Iraq, you get ISIS. Libya, you get civil war. This has unforeseen and often disastrous consequences. And that's why we should avoid reckless regime change wars when we can. Very often, you get even worse than what you used to get. And right now, if you have regime change in Iran, what do you think you'll get next? You have a regime change in Iran, you'll get a civil war, almost certainly. Oh, who cares if they have a civil war? Oh, okay. Where are all those people going to go? To Europe. They're going to flee. You'll create a refugee crisis. If the Iranian people want to have self-determination and they want to have a new form of government, so be it. We as the West should not be involved.
I think that's pretty clear what he's saying there, don't you think, Salim? I mean, he might be off on some of his historical facts a little bit here and there, but basically is when we intervene in foreign affairs and we overthrow regimes, we try to put in our guy, we never realize the absolute chaos that we create, and it never gets any better for us. And so that was Charlie Kirk, who eventually died, of course, was assassinated by whomever, right? And he was, from what I understand, what Tucker Carlson was saying, he stopped Donald Trump from trying the regime change last year when they did that 12-day war bombing. He actually went to the White House and pleaded with Trump not to do it. His voice wasn't around this time for some reason, and Trump went ahead and did this crazy thing. So I would like you to expand on that.
Well, I mean, you have a 20-year-old something talking, a mishmash of history, but on the basic point, he somehow gets it right, but all the rest is utter nonsense that he's talking about. But what jumps out is Islam, the demonization and the vilification that has gone on for 1,000+ years, And you ask the people in North America. I mean, I've been 50+ here. I'm a Canadian with a 50+ year. I would tell my student, I have been a Canadian longer than you were a gleam in the eyes of your parents. you know. And you talk to Canadians, you hear, I was in politics, involved in it. It's the same nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to swim through that garbage. And so he talks about ISIS, he talks about Al Qaeda. Well, ISIS, Al Qaeda, and all were created by the CIA and the MI6.
Yeah.
Right? So they're constantly, I mean, you know, engagement in the sense of subverting another people, vilifying another culture. This seems to me the cultural DNA of the West. You never hear the Chinese abusing, you know, whether they're Buddhists or Buddha or Hindus or Muslims and so on and so forth. You don't hear of that from any other people except in the West. I've been recently reading about Tolstoy, and you know, in terms of his background, because I was fascinated about reading Tolstoy's writings on Islam. You know, and there is a lot of speculation that he reverted to Islam, but he did not do it in public and remained, you know, in that sense, quiet about his own profession of faith. Could be not, but there was and is a large segment of population in Russia, former Soviet Union, that are Muslim, because Russia was an empire, Soviet Union was an empire that fought with the Persians, they fought with the Turks, the Ottoman, and they kept sweeping down from the north towards the Caspian Sea, towards the Black Sea, and so on and so forth. And those lands that were now, you know, in the Caucasus, around the Caspian Sea, in Central Asia, those were all Muslim societies that were overrun by the Tsarist armies and then the Soviet armies, you know. And while Soviet Union collapsed and these areas have become independent states like Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan and Turkmenistan and so on and so forth, there are a lot of provinces in the Russian Federation that still have a Muslim majority. The Tatarstan, the Cossacks, you know, Chechnya, and so on and so forth. And Muslim Russians have fought shoulder to shoulder with the Russian army, the Christian army. Now that, you know, Christianity has returned, Eastern Christianity has returned in Russia, the Orthodox Church. They fought shoulder to shoulder in Ukraine, you know, and so on, as they did during the Second World War, you know. So why is it in the West, in North America, that prides itself to be liberal in the best sense of the word, liberal, you know, to be knowledgeable, to be enlightened, is the most backward when it comes to dealing with other cultures and other people? It is always vilification and bigotry. Why is that? And that's in America. You heard it from Charlie Kirk. I hear it all the time, you know. And there is no examination, self-examination of where these stories come from. The name callings, the abuse, and done without, you know, the slightest of reflection that abuse and vilification is not the way to deal with other people and their faith system. You may disagree with them, that's fine, because if you disagree with them, you should be prepared to know that they will also disagree with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think it's basically used as a control mechanism by people. I mean, it's pretty hard to get people riled up to go invade a foreign country if you don't demonize the enemy, and that's
well, North America. That's why it's so important to point out. Two ocean. If Michael Jones is correct, that God has given two ocean to protect North America, for heaven's sake. And what have they done with their two oceans protecting them? They've gone around abusing, bombing, dropping atom bombs on other people.
Yeah. So I guess we can leave it here for this. We've gone an hour and 30 minutes. It was great having Michael Jones on. It was great having you on, Salim, to have this discussion.
Always to be with you, my friend.
And we got to, and like you phoned me a week and a half ago to set this up because you really wanted to talk about this, to get to the foundational underpinnings of what's going on. And I think we have to realize that it's all coming out now. Even the New York Times just came out and said that Benjamin Netanyahu and the Mossad chief were in the Situation Room and convinced Trump to go to war against the advice of his entire cabinet.
Absolutely.
So obviously,
whether it was against his advice, that is the storytelling. My view is that it doesn't need any advice. Trump is not trying to save himself because he sees a complete failure of his presidency.
Yeah.
You know, if he could have turned and spun this into a victory, he wouldn't care. He doesn't care.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody, and thanks Salim. And I'll be talking to you soon. You'll be back on the show, I'm pretty sure, in 2 or 3 weeks' time with some more. And thank you so much.
This is an ongoing story.
It is. It's not over yet, because I don't think this ceasefire is going to hold. I think it's just a temporary delay. It looks like to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Salim.
You.
And where can people find you, by the way, before you go?
They will find me with you. They will find me on Facebook. They'll find me on salimmansur.substack.com.
Okay, make sure you follow him on Substack. Just type in Salim Mansur on Substack and find it. And there's his Twitter at Salim Mansur 26, and follow him there.
That's right.
Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye. All right. Thanks for sticking around this long. I'm going to share something fun for you guys. The latest Lego, the latest Lego animation that just came out. Iranians just published. This is from 2 hours ago. The Iranians just published this new very banger Lego AI movie that Trump almost wants to put onto agreement to stop them. Do whatever you need to do, but don't let Trump watch this. It's hilarious. Let's watch this.
Yeah. Keep that same energy. You ain't nothing but a fraud. Yo, call him what he is. Liar! Hey. Yeah. Hey, loser, come closer. I'm the exposer. Fake billionaire, your whole empire opposer. You step down. Another liar takes the crown. The whole system is a circus. You're just a clown. You drop fake news, sitting high in your tower. Morally bankrupt, just drunk on the power. You're fired. Played your last trump card. No more aces, boy, you're discarded. Look in the mirror. Tell me what you see. Big ego crushed. Fake reality. We covered in stone. We spell it in the fire. Ready for the truth. Call him the liar. Labor of blood on your pride. Island Epstein, secrets you hide. All your crimes buried deep inside. Rotten systems, you're gonna slide. L-I-A-R. Yeah, we see you. L-I-A-R. We don't. Wait, what's up the socials? Yeah, you're hiding in fear, trying to silence every voice you don't wanna hear. From the MJ to Diana, yeah, we see how it goes. The system buries light, but the shadow always shows. Illuminati, watch blood in the perjury. You lie, but the mission is Epstein fury. Yeah, round fool, yeah, the records are proof. Now we expose it all. This is hateful truth. Look in the mirror, tell me what you see. Big ego crushed, fake reality. We carve it in stone, we spell it in the fire. Ready for the truth, call him the liar. Labor of blood on your pride. All your crimes buried deep inside. Rotten systems, you're gonna slide. High, high. L-I-A-R. Yeah, we see you. L-I-A-R. We don't believe you. 13%, that's a failing grade. The world is watching. Liar!
That's a banger. I'm telling you, they got this social media thing going down pretty good. Oh, thanks, guys, for showing up. Next Saturday, I'm going to be, I don't know what I'm going to be doing because Dan Hartman and his movie are coming to town next Saturday here in Saskatoon. I should have had that queued up. Hold on a sec, folks. I'll get the promotion for that here. Let me see. Talk amongst yourselves as I find it. So I'm going to be going, I don't know if I'm going to be live streaming from the event. I don't know if they'll let me, but I'm going to go to the showing. Okay, Sean Hartman movie. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see. Oh, gosh. Anyway. Actually, I should go to Jason Levine's Twitter. He's got that. So I don't know. I'll know halfway through the week exactly what I'm going to be doing. But here it is. I'll share the screen. This movie is coming to Saskatoon next Saturday, and I'm going to be definitely going to go see it because I've been invited to it by Jason. It's called Bearing Witness. Don't miss it this Saturday, April 11th. Join us on April 18th. It's coming to Saskatoon. It's the show is called Bearing Witness. It's about Sean Hartman and who died from getting the COVID vaccine. Dan Hartman's the father, and it tells his story. Horrible things have been happening lately, and I should maybe go back. Viva Free call this, but here's his answers for Sean. So he's been he sued Pfizer over it. He's been getting the runaround. He today, I think this is today or yesterday, he phoned the Vaccine Impact Assistance Program because here in Canada they changed the Vaccine Injury Awareness Program to the Vaccine Assistance Program. Before it was being taken care of by a private company that had been putting everybody through the rigmarole, and through they're not paying out any payments. They're not getting physician care to these people, like Kayla Pollock, who's paralyzed by the Moderna vaccine. I'm going to be maybe getting her on the show soon. And there's a few other people here in town. There's a lady that got a blood clot in her leg. So they're all trying to get some accountability for the vaccine injury program. But now they've changed it to the Vaccine Impact Assistance Program. They've deleted all the data, and now they're getting people to reapply. Here was Sean's phone call with the Vaccine Assistance Program, and it's 4 minutes. I just want you to listen to this.
Cas d'incident lié à la vaccination. For service in English, press 1. Your call is being transferred to an agent. Please note that your call, including any time spent on hold, may be recorded for quality and training purposes. Please be respectful while speaking with an agent. Abusive and aggressive language and behavior will not be tolerated and may result in the disconnection of your call.
Hi, this is Mary Lou at Vaccine Impact Assistance Program. How can I assist you today?
Hi, I just wanted to let you know I'm recording this phone call before I proceed.
Yeah.
I'm calling to find out the status of my son's claim.
Okay. So is your son with you?
No, he died.
Oh, okay. Do you have a reference number or?
Yep. Case 2. This was appealed on May 8th, 2023.
Okay. May 8th, 2023. And your name, sir?
Dan Hartman.
And what would be your date of birth? And you never received anything regarding that from Auxerio before?
They told me that they were having trouble finding a pathologist to look at the new evidence, but that was 3 years ago. It'll be 3 years.
Because since last week, I don't know if it's because of those reasons, but since last week, the federal took back the program.
Yeah.
But we're only starting with the.
Okay, I'm going to switch over to the Viva Fry post. This will be quicker to share. Okay, I'm doing this now. Okay, so shocker out of Canada. I could go on and play that, but this is what she says. I think the clerk working for the government of Canada's new jab impact program may have accidentally let slip more than she intended with respect to the previous company that was governing jab injury claims. After saying, I can't say what I found in a review of the prior program, she proceeds to tell Dan Hartman to refile his claim. That this time, she says, it's going to be a real doctor who reviews his claim. A real doctor? Who exactly was reviewing claims previously? Recall Dan's son, Sean, passed away 33 days after taking his first Pfizer jab. He was 17. Dan filed his claim years ago. It was initially rejected. He filed an appeal 3 years ago and has heard nothing since. Now the program has been taken over by the federal government because of things that this clerk cannot say were going on under the prior program administration. And he is being told to start his application from scratch. This is absurd and horrendous. Share and put in blast.
What I'm saying is it's a total new, like before it was Auxerio, okay?
Yeah.
The federal, since last week, took it back because there was a lot of things going on.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Because, well, I can't say what I found there, but anyway, there's a lot of things going on. So that's why they took it back and they did all like the procedures back and as it goes, okay? And they have their own evaluator that's going to evaluate the case. Like it's real doctors that's going to evaluate the case, okay? And it's real health agency agents case that's going to take your case. So that's how it works now, okay, as of last week. So what we've been told, okay, like it's if you already had applied with Auxerio, just never mind that, apply and do a freshly application over the portal that the federal has for the portal application, because there's going to be all kinds of questions, and at the end it's going to ask you, are you applying for somebody else? So that way you're going to say yes, because you're applying for your son that's dead.
So there we go. So I'll turn my camera back on. So next Saturday, Dan's going to be here in Saskatoon showing his movie, and I'm going to show it again. If you're in the Saskatoon area, please come out and watch it. So, A Father's Fight. It's going to be in Toronto on May 23rd. They got a big poster for it. So, but he's going to be here in Saskatoon showing this the Sean Hartman story next Saturday. So that's what I'm going to be doing. next Saturday, going out and supporting that, watching the show. It's going to be at 7 o'clock, so I don't know how I'm going to do my show next week. If I'm going to do it later, maybe I'll go see this, maybe take some interview Dan at the showing, maybe interview a couple other people, maybe talk to Jason Levine, do some interviews, get something that I can maybe show later, and then do the show later on tomorrow. And I will let you know by Wednesday or Thursday. I'll let you know exactly what I'm going to be doing next Saturday. But I think it's important to show up for that, because it's important. The vaccine injury issue is it's crazy. These people are being gaslit. They're being ignored. Kayla Pollock's story is horrible. She's finally getting some mainstream media attention. Just Google Kayla Pollock. Toronto Star interviewed her. She was on, I do believe that she was interviewed by Viva Fry. So go to Viva Fry's Rumble channel and watch that interview with Kayla Pollock. Viva's going to be covering this story too. And I think it's very important to get people behind this, because we need some accountability for the damage that the so-called mRNA jab did to people. Destroyed families, tore them apart, killed a lot of people, injured a lot of others, paralyzed people, gave people Bell's palsy. And you can't sue anybody, because not only did the American government, the Canadian government also pass laws that says you can't sue these vaccine companies because they're an essential service or something. So it's an absolute wreck. It's an absolute joke. But thank you guys for showing up this week, and I'm just letting you know what's happening next week. And I'm going to play a banner ad, because I haven't done this for a while, but since I'm wearing the shirt, hey, get your druthers on. There you go. Druthers, Canada's independent newspaper. It's free. Just go to druthers.com and www.druthers.ca, and you can get this shipped right to your home, or you can get any amount shipped, and you can hand them out to anybody you want. You can read it online if that's what you want to do. Druthers.ca, you can read the Druthers online. This is the latest issue. This is the banger one. The new one I haven't got the new one yet for April. This is March's Carney's New World Order, and a wealth of information that you're not going to find on the mainstream media. And at the back, this is a good one. Absurdity Observer. Some of the most absurd happenings in recent weeks is always a fun read. The climate hypocrisy one. Then Justin's now dating Katy Perry, who was the girl astronaut and stuff. It's pretty hilarious, that Absurdity Observer section. So get that just for that alone. Gives you a few laughs. But thanks for showing up this week, and do get your druthers on and apply to druthers.ca and support independent media here in Canada. And if you want to support me, please help me out, because let's see, where is that? There it is. Support RBN. Like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to my YouTube channel too. Okay, because I'm now on YouTube. I don't know how long it'll last. Right now, I have 14 people there watching. Thank you, YouTube guys. Love you. Trying to grow my channel. If I can get 500 followers there, I can be monetized. And since I have 1.5 thousand subscribers on Rumble, why can't I get that high on YouTube? Come on, guys. Put it out. Share it out. Try to build up my stats there on YouTube, so I can keep bringing you this great content, these great interviews with people like E. Michael Jones, people like Salim Mansur, the great Donald Jeffries. We're trying to get an interview nailed down with Cynthia McKinney, but she's back in Bangladesh, out of the country. She can only do Wednesdays or Thursdays. And as you know, I work Sunday to Friday. I'm a truck driver out on the road, and it's income tax time. And sadly, because of the 8 tickets for $50,000 I got hammered for fighting against the COVID tyranny when I was doing town halls and protesting against the mandates and restrictions. There's all the tickets that I owe, 8 tickets for $50,000, and it's income tax time, and I go to get my income tax done up. I don't get any money back. They just claw it all. The federal government just takes it all to pay for all these fines and stuff. So if you can help me out, that'd be great. You can go to www.givesango.com/RBHam. $5 a month would be wonderful. Any little bit helps. If I get a donation once every 3 months, they at least don't suspend my account. So that'd be helpful. And I can keep the lights on and keep doing this, because it's tough. We're living paycheck to paycheck like I do, but I think I bring some insight and some wealth of knowledge to this issue that I've been following for so long. Like I said, I've been an alternative historian researcher for 30, 40 years. And at one point I was had my own blog called Truth and Consequences. And then it became a Beyond the Pale blog back in the early 2000s, middle 2000s. And then I had some problems with my life at the time, and I stopped blogging, and actually I forgot how to write, and I don't have time now because I'm working all the time. So I'd like to do that again. But I have a Substack. You can go to substack.com/RBHam, find me there. And you can read my, I did write an article about my fight against COVID tyranny. You can read about it all there. It's a quick little summary of what I was up against and who I joined up with and my journey and how I joined the People's Party of Canada and ran for office last election. It's pretty interesting, I think, for people to understand where I'm coming from. Because I'm a classic lefty, classic liberal, old-time lefty, trade unionist, anti-war activist, marched against the last war, and I'm marching against the next war already. And I found myself in this position where the only political party that left that I could identify with was the People's Party of Canada and Maxime Bernier, because he was brave enough to come out against the vaccine mandates and vaccine passports and all that stuff, and it wasn't popular. And I thought that was very brave. And I joined him and his cause. And it's a mishmash because there's not too many old lefties there. They're mostly right-wingers, and a lot of people are not big fans of Islam and all that stuff, and don't see the big picture as much as I do, and don't realize that the migrant crisis and everything was caused by the actions of our governments. Trying to steal the resources of of places in the Middle East and East Asia. It's complicated, and if you don't see the big picture, you can be fooled. But what I liked about Maxime is he's also against the Ukraine war, and he's against any intervention in the Middle East, and he's completely neutral on the Israeli-Palestine issue. I'm not so neutral. I think what Israel is doing is completely evil, and I'm against what they're doing. I believe that the Zionist state of Israel are the Nazis of our time. I come out right and say that because they have concentration camps. They do surprise attacks on their neighbors, and they're trying to expand living room, Lebensraum, as Hitler called it, expanding into Lebanon and Lebanon and Syria. And they actually, in their plans, they want to they want to take the Sinai from Egypt and have their empire go from the Euphrates to the Nile. It's crazy, but I believe that they have to be reined in, and I hope that they are eventually, because it's getting crazy. What's going on, they are the dangers in the world today, especially what's going on in Iran. And the threat what this is causing to the whole global economy. Gas prices, of course, and if the Strait of Hormuz is closed, the fertilizer doesn't get out. This is planting season for the farmers, and we're going to have mass famine all over the world. And we're having, of course, what's going on in Ireland right now, a lot like what our Freedom Convoy was here in Canada. It's happening now in Ireland, and I would like to bring that story to you guys too. They're being cracked. They rolled out the army and the police to crack down on the skulls of Irish freedom fighters who were just trying to. They're protesting against the fuel tax. Their farmers and truckers are being driven out of their jobs in Ireland now because of this insanity. And the chief policeman over there, who is leading this crackdown on the Irish Freedom Convoy, is a Canadian who is one of the top people that was trying to stop the Freedom Convoy here in Canada. They outsourced her from Canada to Ireland because they look at what happened here at the Freedom Convoy when they sent the horses out and they cracked down on the Freedom Convoy and violently dispersed it. They look at that as a strategy of it's very good that you did, so we got to import that over to Ireland now to crack down on their own people. What's going on there is just crazy, and it's going to happen everywhere pretty soon because, as Klaus Schwab said, we must be prepared to live in an angrier world because it's coming, folks. It's a plan. They want to, they want to bring in their Great Reset, their Agenda 2030, and they're going to use this. They used the COVID thing to advance this agenda, and now they're using this war to advance that agenda. It's going to get hairy. It's going to get scary, but if we stick to our principles and fight back against it peacefully and by educating the public about the real aims of these people, these globalist overlords, this global capitalist tech overlord agenda. People call it some kind of a communist agenda. It's not so much. It's communism for them, for socialism for them, because they don't suffer the consequences. It's dog eat dog for us here at the bottom of the pile, and they want to bring in, of course, their universal basic income and pay us barely a living wage to stay at home and play video games as we get locked into our digital cage and we can't access our money unless we are tracked and traced wherever we go. It's coming in full force, this full spectrum surveillance state that they want. We got to fight back against it, and people are, and I hope everybody wakes up to it. And I want to thank everybody in the chat. I want to thank you, Elber Kid, and thank you, Revolution of the Minds. And she's Revolution of the Minds. That was the RCMP musical ride, RB. Yeah, that was back in the days in the 1970s, 1980s, when the RCMP musical ride was something we could be thought of with pride. Nobody talks about the RCMP musical ride anymore. I don't even know if they do it anymore. It's crazy. Elba Kid says they've occupied our government for the last 20 years. Yes. Linda Craig says neutral is not good when it comes to genocide. That's true. I pwned you. Thank you for being my moderator, both in the Rumble and the YouTube. Thank you, I pwned you, for putting out on YouTube. He's put a whole bunch of shorts out on YouTube from my last couple interviews. Please go to them and share them out. Little clips, especially the one with Anthony Aguilar, the one about October 7th was an inside job. All those things, they're really, really good. Thank you, I pwned you, for doing them. Please go out there, click on them, watch them, like them, and share them, please. That'd be just great, because I want to get out there. I'd like to get a couple of those to go viral, because I think they're very important for people to see. And Linda Craig, yes, now they just trample protesters instead of musically riding them. Greg Hume, thank you. Get Up King, thank you. Thank you, all everybody, for being here and for supporting this channel, supporting my work. This is the one thing I have a passion for left in this freaking world. I'm 62 years old. I screamed after 9/11. I was screaming in the wind like a maniac for 25, 30 years, trying to get people to understand what was going on. Even before then, I noticed the chemtrails in 1998, 1999 when I was driving a truck over the bald prairie and started noticing for the first time these crazy trails in the sky, and they didn't look normal. They weren't what I grew up with. And they've been doing that since 1998, 1999, the chemtrail program, poisoning us with barium and aluminum. And what barium and aluminum is, Baal, right? Poisoning us and trying to kill us, because they want us dead. They want there's a reason they erected the Georgia Guidestones. There's a reason they knocked them down too, because too many people are waking up. So they knock them down now to keep them out of mind. But trust me, these Malthusian, evil, globalist MFers who are right now all meeting in Washington at the Salamander Hotel for an emergency Bilderberg meeting, they would very much like to murder 90% of the world's population and keep it at that 500 million level, and have vast swaths of nature zoned off only to them and their rich friends, while we live in packed into cities in 15 square meter apartments in 15 minutes, cities totally tracked and traced and digitally ID'd and surveilled everywhere we go, not having any freedom at all. And that's what they want for us, because they consider us lesser than. They consider themselves to be the masters of the universe, and we're just cattle to them. And that's probably why they like this Talmudic religious stuff so much, because that sounds good to them. Yeah. Most of these people are just cattle that are used for our own as servants, as serfs. They want to bring back the old medieval ages of masters and serfs. So I think we can fight against that, because we have no other choice. Like I said, I'm 62 years old. I don't have much left to lose, but I want my grandchildren to grow up with some sense of hope. I want them to be able to buy their own houses. I want them to have some freedom. I want them to be able to visit other countries and travel without having, and having some disposable income like the boomers did. because it's not happening anymore. Young people are facing a horrible, horrible future if we keep it going the way that it is. And what's really sad is that all these boomers don't realize what they're leaving as an inheritance to their grandchildren, which is going to be it looks more and more horrible as they just completely in their normie lifestyles just go about their business, blah blah blah, bread and circuses, not paying attention to what's going on. It's got to change, and hopefully enough people are waking up that it will. So thank you for showing up this weekend for this Saturday for this show. I will be back next Saturday in some fashion. Stay tuned. I'm going to definitely be talking about the Sean Hartman story and more about what's going on here in Canada. We've got three bills, C3, C7, and some other one. They want to take away our freedom of speech and our civil rights. And they're talking openly now about having a censorship regime where the police can legally sift through your social media. If you say anything they don't like, you like the knock at the door, Mr. Ham, we're not too pleased what you're saying about our prime minister. I think we might have to bring you in for some questioning. And can you please give me your phone and all your computers, please? We want to go through them to make sure that you're not some kind of a dissident. God forbid you be a dissident. So that's what's coming unless we stop it. So unless we wake up now and fight back against it, because there's no going back. I'd rather, I've been fighting in the first ditch for a long time. We're now near the last ditch, and the barricade's been falling after time after time after time. We need to get more people into this last ditch to stand up and fight against it, because what comes after that is, as George Orwell said, the future of humanity is a boot stamping on the face forever. So thank you guys for being here. Once again, you can support me at www.givesendgo.com. Please like, share, and subscribe. Go to my YouTube channel, and besides, go to both channels, Rumble and YouTube. Subscribe and share, like them. Get them out to as many people as you can, especially my YouTube shorts. Try sharing them out, please. Get more circulation, because pretty soon I'm going to be retiring. And I'll be doing this every day, and I want to have some people to actually talk with and interact with, like I have these wonderful people that are following me now on social media. Thank you so much. Love you guys. See you soon. See you next week. And remember, conventional wisdom is simply conventional deception. If you really want to know the truth, sometimes you just have to go beyond the pale. Thanks, guys. Bye.
They send our sons to war, a cruel charade, a racket built on blood, where fortunes are made. They lie about the reasons, spin tales so tall, while heroes die for profit and empires fall. Politics a game, a circus of clowns, puppets on strings. They parade through our towns. They distract and divide us with hate as their tool, pitting brother against brother in a world they misrule. When the powers that be warn you not to go beyond the pale, then that's a sure sign there's more to the tale. Their anti-human agenda, it's plain as the day. They view us as bugs in their cold hardness play. Eat insects they sneer, while they feast on the land. Depopulation's their goal, with a tightening hand. Civil rights torn to shreds in the name of their peace. A police state rises where freedom all cease. Gaslight us with propaganda, their lies never end, twisting truth in their grip till our minds start to bend. When the powers that be warn you not to go beyond the pale, then that's a sure sign there's more to the tale. Order out of chaos, their sinister creed. They spark the flames, then offer what we need. Economic stagnation, they choke out our dreams, while divide and conquer rips us at the seams. They fan every fracture, they stoke every fight, left against right, till we're blind to the light. Yet beyond their pale eyes, the truth they conceal, a world where we're free, where our hearts can still heal. When the powers that be warn you not to go beyond the pale, then that's a sure sign there's more to the tale. So step past their warnings, their fences, their lies. See the world they've been hiding with wide open eyes. Beyond the pale, where their power grows frail, we'll reclaim our future and truth will prevail.
Yeah. Beyond the pale, I stand as the warnings. They sent our sons to war. Yeah. Yeah. Beyond the pale. Yeah. They sent our sons to war, a cruel charade, a racket built on blood, where fortunes are made. They lie about the reason, spin tales so tall, while heroes die for profit and empires fall. Politics, a game, a circus of clowns, puppets on strings, they parade through our towns. They distract and divide us with hate as their tool, pitting brother against brother in a world they misrule. When the powers that be warn you not to go beyond the pale, then that's a sure sign there's more to the tale. When the powers that be warn you not to go beyond the pale, yeah, then that's a sure sign there's more to the tale. The anti-human agenda, plain as the day. They view us as bugs in their cold, heartless play. Eat insects, they sneer while they feast on the land. Depopulation's their goal with the tightening hand. Civil rights torn to shreds in the name of their peace. A police state rises where freedoms all cease. Gaslight us with propaganda, their lies never end. Twisting truth in their grip till our minds start to bend. When the powers that be warn you not to go beyond the pale, then that's a sure sign there's more to the tale. When the powers that be warn you not to go beyond the pale, yeah, then that's a sure sign there's more to the tale. Order out of chaos, their sinister creed. They spark the flames, then offer what we need. Economic stagnation, they choke out our dreams, while divide and conquer rips us at the seams. They fan every fracture, they stoke every fight, left against right, till we're blind to the light. Yet beyond the pale lies the truth they conceal, a world where we're free, where our hearts can still heal. When the powers that be warn you not to go beyond the pale, then that's a sure sign there's more to the tale. When the powers that be warn you not to go beyond the pale, yeah, then that's a sure sign there's more to the tale. So step past their warnings, their fences, their lies. See the world they've been hiding with wide open eyes. Beyond the pale, where their power grows frail, we'll reclaim our future and truth will prevail. Yeah. Beyond the pale. beyond the pale.
When the powers that be warn you not to go beyond the pale,
then that's a sure sign there's more to the tale.
when the powers that be warn you not to go beyond the pale,
Yeah, then that's a sure sign there's more to the tale. Beyond the pale, yeah.